Hello and welcome. So today we want to do the task 2 of our October-November 2021 Information and Technology paper 4 graphics creation task. So task 2 says use a suitable vector graphic image application to create images of clouds and a lightning bolt. So this is the image that we're supposed to create of the cloud. And these are the points that we should take note as we create the cloud. The cloud image must have 3 elements. 1, 2, 3. Clear, sharp edges. Light gray fill. The light gray fill. A darker gray shading at the bottom. So we can see that darker gray shading at the bottom. A transparent background, and it should have a transparent background. Save the image as a scalable vector graphic, SVG format as cloud, followed by that. Okay, so we can now go to our Illustrator to create a vector graphic image, right? So we've not been told of any dimensions, so we're just going to create our artboard. We're not going to be specific on size. So we are just going to go and create and have an artboard where we are going to start to create our cloud. So we are going to look for our ellipse tool. Click and drag to create our first ellipse tool shape that we are going to use throughout. Okay. So this shape should be a light gray. So our fill color will choose a lighter gray. Okay. So go with that one. Okay. Right. We can choose to make it even much lighter again. Let's try to lighten the fill. Okay, let's go with that one. I think it's much lighter. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to copy and create the cloud using this one. So we are going to click on our Alt, our shape, click Alt, and then you drag. Okay, so when we click Alt and drag, it should allow us to have another copy, and then we make sure the copy is just slightly above, because we want to try and imitate the shape that we have. The one in the middle is slightly a bit above, and then click Alt and drag again to have that one. Alt and drag. So Alt and drag helps us to just have a copy without clicking copy, Control C and Control. Okay. So everything is being covered, right? Okay, so what we are trying to create is the outer part of our cloud. So the outer parts are going to create our cloud. So using our Pathfinder, we are now going to unite so that we only have the out part of this cloud, okay? So our Pathfinder, we find it in properties. So we are going to select unite. So it will now create this shape, right? So this is the cloud that we want, and we can see the outline. Okay, so now we want to have the lower part, which is darker gray. We are going to take our shape, put that one aside, and then now let's use this one to create the one that is the darker area. So we are just going to click Alt and drag to create another shape. So what we want is to take this bottom part, the one on top, we have pushed it up slightly so that we can have this area, right? We want to get the area that is below, okay? So make sure you avoid those corners there. You can actually even increase it outside like that. Okay, so the top one should cover all the areas that you don't want to see. So the ones that you are going to see is when we are going to use our Pathfinder to remove front. So remove front will remove the shape that is on top and leave you with the shape that is bottom, but not covered by the shape on top. So the last part we'll get will be that shape. Okay, so now going to highlight the two ends minus front, and we are left with that one. So we are going to make it much darker. Now we are going to choose a darker gray fill. So now that this one is darker, we are going to also remove the stroke because we want to fit it in. So that red line says none, and none we are removing the stroke. So let's have this and let's then put it inside. So this will now create that darkness of the cloud that is at the bottom. Okay, so this is our cloud. What we are going to do is we are going to highlight the two and group. Okay, so now that we have grouped, we are just going to create more copies and arrange. But because I created a big shape on a small output, you can choose to even reduce it. And now I'm going to create more copies. Right. So from our shape, we've seen that there's one on top. So this one on top should be arranged to back. So you send to back so that it's just showing the part that we want it to show. And then those are the two that are supposed to show in front. Okay, so this is the arrangement of our cloud that we want. Okay, so when it's like this, you can say now our question is done on the cloud, and the question is saying save it as cloud. So we are going to save it as cloud, followed by sample number and candidate number, like that. Okay, and it should be in SVG, right? That's the file type that we're supposed to use. So file, when we are saving, we always use export. Right. So the file name followed by your center number and your candidate number. Okay, and the service type, we want it to be SVG, our scalable vector graphic. And remember to make sure that all your things, you are going to save them in one folder, the one that you've been asked to save in. That's where you are going to make sure you are saving. So the folder that we had created was examination. So we are going to save all our information in there, because that's the one we are going to submit for marking. Okay, so when we are done, we move on to the next question. The next question is saying we want that now. Lightning bolt image must have a thin black outline, right? A gradient fill from red to yellow is shown in the transparent background. Okay, so we're going to go in there. And by the way, if you want to see if it's a transparent background, you can go to view and you look for show transparency grid. So when you click on this, it's going to show you that all this area is transparent. The background area is transparent. Okay, so our last image was transparent, so we can hide it for now. And let's just open a new artboard and we create our lightning bolt from there. Okay, so this is the lightning bolt that we want to create. We can actually try and put it close so we can be trying to match something that we're seeing. Okay. Okay, so whenever we're doing our practices, we can choose to make sure that we work with our screen shade so that you can see your paper if you don't have a hard copy if you're not using a hard copy, you can actually choose to make sure that you have your two areas to work on. Okay, so let's create our shape there whilst we are looking at our lightning bolt. So we are using the pen tool. So our pen tool, we are going to use it to draw lines to create that. And then going down. Up in. So we are creating the front part first. Now the outside. Okay, so when we reach the point where we started, we are done. We click, this is our shape that we have created whilst copying that. Okay, so we have to put the gradient fill now. So on our gradient fill, we want to have red. So when you click on the gradient fill, you can see that it's already gray to black. But the one that is gray, that's where we want to put our red to orange. Okay, red to yellow. So we are going to select red here. Okay, let's just I'm going to maximize this so that it's easier to put on our gradient. Double tap the first one. We want it to be red, so we are going to select on red on this one. And then we want yellow at the end. Our shape is not picking. Let's click on it again and do. Okay. Red, and now it has picked the red at the end. We are going to select yellow. We select our yellow. Okay. So when you open your gradient, usually it might not show you the colors. So if you click on here where it says swatches, it can allow you to have those colors that you then use to click and change your gradient colors. Okay. So this is the lightning bolt, and because we want to have a thin black, we are having that thin black outside there. Okay. So this is the shape, and now we go to save the image as a scalable vector graphic as bold. So we're going to go File, Export, Export as. So whenever we're saving, we choose the option Export so that we can have the file type that we want. Okay. So when you save for the second time, you see that it would have already picked the path that we want. So inside our examination, we already have this that we had created the cloud. So now we are just having our bold. Okay. So let's go back to our question paper. Okay, so this is the end of task 2. We'll meet in task 3 where we are now doing the animation. So usually when we are doing animation, just remember that the things that we have created in our graphics creation questions, task 1 and task 2, we will then use those things, okay, to create the animation. Okay, so it's bye for now. We'll meet in our